is the second week of February. It is February 9th. Thanks for watching the Calvary briefing today. I want to talk to you for a few minutes about something that is happening in our country, and I want to challenge you to think about what this means, and then I want to finish by challenging you to do something. There was an article written by Joe Carter, and it's kind of a complicated title, but the article was entitled, "Why Falling Religious Attendance Could Be Increasing Deaths of Despair." And the background of this article comes from some studies that have been done recently. Here in the United States, it is not a big secret that over the last several decades, church attendance has been decreasing. And something significant has happened in the last 4 years, statistically. 4 years ago, before the pandemic, 1 in 4 Americans, 25%, said that they never attended a religious gathering or service of any kind. 1/4 of Americans have nothing to do with any kind of religious gathering. Well, in 2022, 4 years later, that number is now 1 in 3, 33%. 33% of Americans report that they never attend any religious gathering or service. Now, lest you think that our nation is incredibly religious and that there are 67% of Americans who are still attending all the time, please know that the other statistic that is important is that only 25% of Americans say that they attend a religious gathering or service once a month. And so many just attend perhaps once a year or twice a year, some maybe once a month, but the number of people who have nothing to do with any religious gathering or service has increased in the last 4 years from 25% of Americans to 33% of Americans. A recent study by Princeton economists Ann Case and Angus Deaton started to track something that they call deaths of despair. Deaths of despair. And what they started to track was these deaths that were happening in the United States. They discovered a dramatic increase in death rates for the middle-aged, white, non-Hispanic men and women. And they were finding that these deaths of despair were coming mainly from drug overdoses, suicide, and alcoholic liver disease. When you look at these deaths of despair in various parts of our country, these deaths are increasing anywhere from 56% to 387%. And one of the conclusions that this study from Princeton University came to is in this quote: "The pillars that once helped give life meaning, a good job, a stable home life, a voice in the community, have all eroded." Well, the National Bureau of Economic Research did a paper, and they found something interesting about these deaths of despair. They found that these deaths of despair were increasing faster in areas where a decrease in religious attendance was also increasing. Even though this decrease in religious attendance in our nation has been increasing for several decades, it seems to be going faster, and it seems to be going faster in areas where death and despair are coming in the wake of this decrease in religious attendance. All of us are aware of the fact that just because you attend a religious ceremony or a religious service, that doesn't make you a follower of Christ, and it doesn't necessarily make a big difference in your behavior. But what these studies are indicating is that deaths of despair, where people have lost all hope, are on the increase, where a lack of attendance at any religious service is also on the increase. Joe Carter points out that in 2010, country singer Jason Aldean released a song entitled Church Pew or Bar Stool. And in this particular song, he complains about how he's stuck in a church pew or bar stool kind of town. And he says, there's only two means of salvation around here that seem to work: whiskey or the Bible, a shot glass or revival. Now that's a crude comparison and dichotomy, but it seems that that's indicating something that a lot of Americans are beginning to see. There are two choices of life: a church pew or a bar stool. There's a lot of work that needs to go into actually increasing church attendance. None of us want to just increase church attendance for the sake of having more numbers. We want to reach people with the gospel. But this study indicates something really significant. Deaths of despair are happening in areas where people are going to church less and less and less. When I returned from this pastor's conference in Minnesota recently, I was reminded by two people here in our church of two suicides, deaths of despair. And in both cases, all those close to the person who committed suicide were not aware of anything significant that was going on like this in the life of the person who took their own life. And so I can say to you, we don't know what's going on in the lives of those around us. Could it be that one of the best things we could do for our community, if we love Jesus Christ and if we love our communities, maybe the best thing that we could do for our communities is to actually invite people to come to church with us? We must remember the truth that Jesus spoke in Luke 19:10, where he reminded us that he came to seek and save the lost. We need to ensure that people in our communities, our neighbors, people that we know, we need to make sure that they understand that in this church, in Calvary Church of Broomfield, they will be welcome and they will be treated with respect. Brothers and sisters in Christ, deaths of despair are on the increase. A lack of church attendance is on the increase in those areas where deaths of despair are increasing the most. Invite somebody to come to Calvary Church with you. You literally might be saving their life. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost.